Stop for 1 second and answer this honestly. If your investing app showed you a big fat $100,000 tomorrow, would your life actually feel different? Because here's the weird truth. Most people don't quit investing because they hate money. They quit because the first $100,000 is designed to feel like it's not working. It's slow, it's boring, it's quiet. And it tricks you into thinking you're wasting your time. I'm Professor Cashstein, your slightly crumpled professor of money and common sense, and today you're going to learn why the first $100,000 feels like pushing a boulder uphill, and why everything speeds up after you cross it. And if you stay to the end, you'll get the one rule that stops people from resetting their progress right after they finally hit 6 figures. Because that's the moment most people blow it. Now, quick test. What number would make you feel like you're finally making progress? 10,000? 50,000? 100,000? Hold that number in your head, because in a second you'll see why your brain picked it and how to use that to stay consistent long enough for the math to kick in. All right, let's talk about the pain. When you start investing from zero, almost every dollar of progress comes from you. Your paycheck, your discipline, your patience. Your money isn't really working for you yet, not in a way you can feel. So you do the hardest part of wealth building. You show up for months, sometimes years, and it feels like nothing is happening. That's why the first $100,000 is a psychological filter. It filters out people who want motivation, and it rewards people who build a system. Here's the core idea. The early phase of investing is not about returns. It's about momentum, because momentum is what eventually turns saving into snowballing. Let me show you what I mean with a simple picture. Imagine 2 engines pushing your net worth forward. Engine 1 is your contribution engine. That's your monthly savings, the money you add. Engine 2 is your returns engine. That's your investments growing over time. At the beginning, your returns engine is tiny, like a toy engine. So even if you're doing everything right, it still feels slow, because it is slow. And that leads to the biggest trap in personal finance. People think slow progress means failure. But slow progress at the start is normal. It's the price of entry. Now here comes the first curiosity loop. If the beginning is so slow, why do rich people make it look effortless? Is it because they're smarter? Is it because they have secret investments? Or is it because they crossed the threshold years ago and the game has been different ever since? Here's the answer. Most effortless wealth is just compound growth finally having enough fuel to matter. Compound growth is boring when the base is small, but it becomes ridiculous when the base is big. That's it. Same rules, different scale. Now, before you roll your eyes and say, "Great, Professor, so I just need more money," stay with me. Because the trick isn't getting rich first. The trick is getting through the phase where your brain is screaming, "This is pointless." So let's map the 3 phases of the first $100,000. Phase 1, the crawl. This is where you're building your first $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. Everything feels like sacrifice. Your savings rate matters more than anything. Phase 2, the grind. This is where you're in the middle, maybe $30,000 to $70,000. This is the danger zone because progress is real, but not exciting. You're not broke anymore, but you're not free either. So your brain starts bargaining. Maybe I deserve a nicer car. Maybe I deserve a bigger flat. Maybe I should just enjoy life and stop being so strict. Phase 3, the flip. This is where your money finally starts showing up like a quiet second income. Not because you got lucky, but because the base got big enough to create meaningful movement. And here's the addictive part. Once you feel that flip even once, you start wanting to feed it, because it's the first time you experience money growing without you trading hours for it. Now let's make this practical. The first $100,000 is not an investing problem. It's a behavior problem. It's an identity problem, because reaching $100,000 requires doing a lot of boring longer than most people can tolerate. So, Professor Cashstein is going to give you the anti-quit blueprint. Step 1, stop chasing excitement, chase automation. If you rely on motivation, you will fail the moment life gets stressful. So you need a boring, automatic plan. Money moves the day after payday, not at the end of the month, not when you feel like it. Because end-of-month saving is what people do right before they save nothing. Step 2. Protect the base. This is where people sabotage themselves. They build $40,000, then they treat it like spending money. They build $70,000, then they upgrade their life and drop back to $45,000. And they don't realize they didn't just spend money, they spent years of momentum. If you want the first $100,000 to happen, you need a rule. Your invested money is not a buffet, it is a fortress. If you must spend, spend from a separate bucket. Because the real purpose of the first $100,000 is not lifestyle, it is leverage. Step 3. Win the boring decade. Yes, I said decade, because most people underestimate how long meaningful wealth takes, and they overestimate what small, inconsistent effort can do. But here's the twist. If you build systems, it doesn't feel like a decade. It feels like a routine. And routines are easier than constant willpower. Now, let's open another loop. What's the number one reason people fail to hit $100,000 even when they have decent income? It's not investing returns. It's not bad luck. It's lifestyle inflation. Every time they earn more, they spend more. They give every raise to their current self and leave their future self with nothing. So here's a simple rule that works in real life. When you get a raise, you don't upgrade your lifestyle first. You upgrade your savings rate first, even if it's small. Half the raise goes to your future. Then you can enjoy the other half. That one habit quietly separates people who reach $100,000 from people who stay stuck in the same place for 20 years. Now, let's talk about the moment you hit $100,000, because it does something strange to your brain. It stops feeling like saving and starts feeling like wealth. You start thinking in bigger moves. You pay attention to fees. You pay attention to taxes. You pay attention to the big decisions. Where you live, what you drive, what you buy, who you listen to. You stop sweating the little stuff, because you finally have a base that gives you breathing room. And that breathing room gives you something more powerful than money. It gives you options. Options to take a better job. Options to move. Options to start a side project. Options to say no. And options are what make wealth feel like freedom. But here's the trap that wipes people out right after they reach $100,000. They celebrate the milestone by destroying the milestone. They buy a car, they book a holiday, they upgrade the flat to feel successful, and then they go right back to the slow phase because they shrunk the base that creates momentum. So here's the rule of Professor Cashstein. You don't celebrate $100,000 by spending it. You celebrate $100,000 by letting it work. Because $100,000 is not the finish line, it's the starting line. It's the moment your money is finally big enough to pull its own weight. And if you keep adding to it and you don't reset the base, the next milestones come faster. Not by magic, by math. Now, I'm not saying it becomes easy, I'm saying it becomes easier. And that difference changes everything. So let's recap the entire video in one sentence. The first $100,000 is slow because you're building the engine. And after that, the engine finally starts helping you. If you're at $5,000, your job is consistency. If you're at $25,000, your job is protecting momentum. If you're at $60,000, your job is not getting bored and self-sabotaging. If you're at $90,000, your job is not celebrating early and resetting the clock. And if you're at $100,000, welcome to the phase where the game starts to change. Now, one last thing before you go. If you want Professor Cashstein to keep making these simple, no-hype money videos, hit like and subscribe. Because if you don't, I'll have to use my giant hammer on this poor innocent dollar bill, and I'm running out of paper for the collage budget. This video is for educational purposes only and not financial advice. See you in the next one.